elevated. Now it's my time to shine, yeah, let's go. Graduated, elevated. Now it's my time to shine, yeah, let's go. Major moves, power moves. Take it to the top one time, non-stop. Gotta go, gotta flow. Take it to the...
Though we have the answers, then you can't construct your response or whatever you want to say, and you know, you panic. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's beneficial to all of us, including me. So I appreciate you in terms of that. And the next question is, having children in terms of motherhood, and being in a full-time job and having a YouTube channel, you've got publications. How did you navigate through that, or how are you still navigating through that?
Right. So do bear in mind, my children are much older now. I have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old. I did not do all of this when I was, 8 years ago. So do understand seasons of life. You can take on things depending on what season you're at. I would say when my children were much younger, that was about 8 to 10 years ago, I was also an intern. So it wasn't a piece of cake. So let's put that. Having children is never a piece of cake. And then having residency training at that time was doubly hard. And I made that choice. It was very intentional. The reason I made that choice and not wait for my career is I had always wanted to have children before I reached 30. More of biological sense and physical sense. I felt like if I'm getting older, I don't think I can handle all of this. I thought, you know what, let's do it when I'm young. And so that's what happened. And second is I had visa issue. Okay. And so I wanted to, visa issue means I was in the US for under a visa. And so I had to finish my training within 7 years. And so I took a really, really short maternity leave, only 4 weeks. And not because the program did not allow me to take more, but I was worried if I delay, take 3 or 4 months, and I would slow down my training and I run out of visa time. So there were some choices that I made that were not the best for my physical health, but it was required at that time. And so whenever somebody feels like, oh, this is unfair, life is unfair, but you choose your decision, and also think about, what am I willing to sacrifice? So the decision we make is not what's the best one, but what am I willing to let go and what am I willing to sacrifice? Then you feel like you're making a non-regretful decision. So, and then coming back to your question, how do I handle my YouTube channel and also my publication, all of that? I would say 2023 was, I really pushed myself really hard. Basically, when I'm not publishing and not at day job, I'm doing my side stuff. This fluctuation back and forth. What I would say, the last quarter of 2023, I started to suffer, where I was so exhausted that I would sleep throughout the weekend. I was so exhausted, I couldn't really think. And so this year, actually 2024, I'm starting to see, and I'm turning 40. And so I'm like, now I need to prioritize my physical health a lot more. And so I'm actually slowing down this year. And so again, it's going back to seasons of life. People told me you should not push yourself. You should always take care of your health. But I wanted to try it myself. I wanted to see how much I could push and make my own mistakes. So despite what people said, I have to make my own mistakes. And this year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pause a little bit. So my YouTube, I haven't published a few because I needed to step back. And once I feel like I've recovered enough, I'm going to do it in a less impulsive manner. I tend to be impulsive, where if I have an idea, I need to run with it. And so that's, I started a business. Oh, let me do YouTube channel. Let me do this. Let me do that. I was very impulsive. And so this year I'm going to do less impulsive work, but build the foundation. And slow does not mean not efficient. Okay. Because if you think about it, the loftier the goal, the loftier the building, the deeper the foundation has to be. And so this year, my word goal for the year is to build my foundation, to strengthen all the skills I need to for my research, the ability to scale, so that I can buy some time in my free time and build skills again, so that I can scale a little bit better. So I'm actually slowing down this year so that I can speed up in the next few years.
Yeah, I love that. And the reality is, I think I had a crash as well in 2023. And and I had to take time out, but at the same time, I want to help everybody, and my cup was empty.
Yeah.
So I really do understand. And there's somebody as well who does he writes blogs for PhD students. He went missing in action, and I sent him a message like, "Oh, you're right." He's like, "I've crashed, Noma, I'm done." He's like, "I'll respond to you next year." And I've waited, and he's just been in contact recently. So I think all of us, you know, we do rush because we're so excited, which moves on to the next question in terms of entrepreneurship. How does one bring an idea into a business that's viable, makes money, and also exciting? Because often we are all entrepreneurs, but we're not bringing money in.
Such a great question. I think one thing I've learned as I started going into entrepreneur is that I don't actually have that many skills. I was good at research. I was good at writing papers. I was good at being a doctor. But again, it's my new chapter in life. When I first trained, I was good at being a clinician. I wasn't good as a researcher. I struggled for 3 years before I could become a researcher. And when I first stepped into entrepreneurship, there's so many things to learn. There's marketing, there is sales, there's lead generation, there is product. So we want to rush to do this, not realizing actually I have a lot of skills that I'm not good at. And you need to make sure when we want to reach the threshold, you need at least the basic skills that is built up, then you can meet the threshold of earning money. And when it comes to profit, making money is you have to actually deliver something that people want and people care about, not what we think we want. So I think that's the mistake. Making sure that the product we produce is valuable to somebody wants. And the second piece is just because it's good enough, if nobody knows about it, they won't buy it. So that's the whole, you need to do marketing, you need sales, and then you need a good product. So it's a combination of things in order to meet it.
I love that. The next question is, often, because I'm literally locked up in my office, like you said, I've actually got journals here that I was reading just as evidence, right? I'm good with paperwork. So when it comes to managing people, we find it difficult because we have the ideas and we want things to be done. We think people are going to buy into it, but we're not good at managing our staff when we bring in a team to help us. How does one become a better manager of people, in your opinion?
So in my line of job, I'm not at a place where I'm managing a lot of people. Okay. So I would not be the best person, but I'll share some of my personal experience. So as a researcher, I'm basically a one-man show at this moment, and I'm a PI, where principal investigator. I don't have my own team, postdocs, but I do have additional people helping in terms of, I buy 20% of FTE, means 20% of your time, of research assistant, 20% of project manager, 20% of time for research assistant. And how I manage that is more of several things. First is there must be good communication, good expectation, and understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I know that I'm weak at certain type of research design. There's something called usability studies. So I'm working with a usability team, and they also have project management. They're good at project management. And so I will combine with them my skill with their skill in order to work nicely together. And then in terms of management, we use OneNote to communicate. I also create a lot of standard operating procedure, because I feel like if something is going to be done again at least 3 times, I want to create a procedure, standard operating procedure, so that if I need to do this same type of research project again, when I'm hiring people, I don't need to, I have the materials to train them. So even though I'm not at the stage where I'm managing a lot of people, I'm preparing myself, where all my collaboration, I will take all of their information, all of their skills, I try to translate into the standard operating procedure, into my Notion personal notion where this is my research research SOPs, so that in preparation for that.
I love that. And, you know, I deal with SOPs in the world of work, but I've never dealt with SOPs in the world of research. And I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, actually, if I got hit by a bus and I was collaborating with somebody, no one would know I was working on. Like, literally. Yeah. So thank you. That's taught me on the other side.
Things you can do SOPs. Like, think about the IRB, like Institutional Review Board, or the Ethics Committee. All the forms you need to fill, who needs to fill in, which sentence that you need to say it a certain way, and then data collection. How do you contact the data collection form? How do you get the special card to give patient money? You know, there's so many little things that, well, who is the contact person, right? All these things, if you list it down, nobody's going to send you email. Oh, how do I contact this person? How do I contact that person? You have it in a repository. Read this or watch this video.
Honestly, that is gold, like literally gold. So thank you so much for sharing. In terms of the next question, then it's on payment in terms of salary for women. We've seen a few people. I think Taraji P. Henson, I think that's her name, the actress. She's been, you know, on the news and on the platforms stating that, you know, she's worked so hard to be in Hollywood. I know it's not like in our field, but she feels like she's not getting what she should be getting in terms of monies. And she was looking at Oprah Winfrey, whom we know, and we would assume that, you know, she could have opened a door for Taraji P. Henson. What are your thoughts on that subject? Because we all need money to survive,
right?
Essentially, but sometimes we just don't get that pay that we think we deserve.
So it's like such a big topic, you know, to cover. There's systemic issue. There's also skill issue. There's also time issue. Okay, systemically, we know there is a gender pay gap, right? And systemically, our institution, at least, they are really trying to equalize like the base salary. So they are right now in the middle of structuring. Oh, we no longer, you know, everybody at this level and how many experience years get kind of this base salary, and then bonus depends on how many patients you see, things like that. Researchers have slightly different things because maybe it's about publication, how many grants, so slightly different bonus structure. Okay, so they're systematically, that's something that they can do. Unfortunately, that's not under my control, right? I can't control that. Great. There's somebody working on that. When I think about salary and thinking about money, I wanted to see what I can do to control. And with that, what I understand is, especially in the American system, not in all countries, okay, is to understand that you get paid not based on your experience or your time. You get paid more based on how much value you bring for the company. So as a physician, my value is how many patients I can see at one time, how much money or revenue I can bring patient, or how much money I can save for that hospital, right? So you have to understand kind of the financial dynamics, what is really valuable for the company. If I can bring that extra switch on how to improve money and communicate that with your boss, that's how you can start moving. So understand what is truly valuable to the institution, not what we think is valuable. Oh yeah, talking to patient nicely is very valuable, but it doesn't really bring a lot of money, right? So you need to do that. You need to do the default, what we think is important, but we also have to kind of turn on like the business mindset where what is considered valuable. As a researcher, I could be great at teaching my fellows medicine and nephrology and how to write paper. But as true value as a researcher is how many papers I publish, how many research grants I bring in. It means how much money I bring in from different foundations. So I need to know what the rules and what is truly valuable for my job. So kind of two sides. Systemic, yes, we need them to help, but what can I control? I can control what sort of value that the institution thinks is valuable for them.
I think that's very unique in terms of way of thinking, because often I think if we look at the movements that we've had for the past, I would say 3 years, pre-pandemic going into the pandemic, we don't really think about what can I do. We blame, and we have such high expectations, and to suddenly then stop and think about self and say, okay, what are my controllable variables here?
Yeah.
What am I doing? I think
Yes.
that's a really nice take for all of us to take and you know, and have a man in the mirror conversation and try and understand our skill set. And you know, I love the way you've answered the question, and you know, it's made me think as well, and also think about Taraji P. Henson. She's been in the industry for a long time. Maybe there's something there in terms of added value that
Right.
she missed herself in terms of what was needed. I'm not saying that's true, but I'm just thinking out loud to say there is something there because of how you've answered that question. So the next question.
Do you mind if I just add one more little
Yeah.
point about that? Is when it comes to these, like the actress is it's a takes all winner takes all economy. Okay, there are so many actors or actresses in Hollywood or in the world, but only that few people get the highest pay, right? And the goal at this sort of market is that how can you be like the best so that you dominate the scene, you get to control. But if you're like somewhere in the middle, you're just a commodity, you're just somebody in the middle and average. So to you have to start thinking about how can I get to the higher level, and it's the last bit that takes the most effort and energy and is the most difficult. That's why there are only so few people who get that type of salary. So as a researcher, okay, let's get back to academia. The people who are the most highly celebrated are the one who has the best research project, has the most grant funding. They are the one who get to control the conversation, not the low level. I only have 3 publications a year sort of people. I don't have negotiating power. So we have to kind of understand the reality of life, not just saying, oh, you know, throw our hands, things need to be better. So kind of be sneaky about things and understand how the world works is also important.
No, thank you very much. And you know, you are right. If you don't understand the game, going back to your initial analogy, how can you play the game? It just doesn't work. You have to sit out and watch other people play it properly. Essentially.
Sit on the bench.
But the next question then is, I've had a few questions come in, and you know, from a few potential PhD scholars who want to relocate, for example, to Canada, to the US, they're in Africa or they're in India, and they often ask me to say, you know, is it a really good idea, whether they've just gotten married or they've got kids, but their kids can't travel with them? What advice do you have for somebody that's in that situation, but they also want to change their career path and go into something that they appreciate or love, essentially?
Oh, that means they have to choose whether they leave the kids behind or bring it.
Yes.
Oh,
Essentially, because the visa system and the way it was explained to me, I've never applied to go into the US, is that you get it, but you have to go in when they say you should come in, for example, for September, and then you start then, but when you've finished, that's the end.
Right.
Whereas in the UK, they've changed it now. You had an extra year, you could bring in your dependents and all that stuff, but they've changed it now. So it's something different because of all the people that have come in. I'm not sure what decision was made and how, but what's your advice to somebody? Because usually it's women who've asked me this question, it's not men.
So, this is a really tough question because as a mother, I want my kids with me all the time. But I've also seen some of my colleagues, especially those from India, they are more limited in terms of visa because I went from visa to green card, and so kind of life was much easier in terms of I don't have to renew my visa anymore. I have a colleague who came under the visa from India. We know India's to get to a green card takes like 10 years, not 1 year, like me. So they are limited and they need to renew their visa all the time. Now, when she had her first kid, she sent her kid back to her parents to care for because it's she's alone. And I think her spouse wasn't around as well. So it was a really tough decision. Two coins of the story. I think it's very personal decision. Like it's not for me to judge and not for any of us to judge. It's the mother's own decision, because she may feel like coming to improve her career and get into a career will eventually improve the livelihood of her kids and improve their life. You know, that's fully justifiable as long as she feels like she can handle being apart from her kids for a few years. Now, the other opposite is, you know what, I want to spend the first 3-4 years, formative years with my kids, and delay my career. That is also fine too. Not for me to judge, not for any of us to judge. It's her own decision, it's her own choice, what she is really willing to sacrifice. And finally, my experience with my kids is that we put a lot of emphasis on that first step and the first talk. And you know what, my kids don't remember any of that at all. They don't remember any of that at all, but they just remember things like, oh, I spoke to them, they felt like I love them, and that was good enough. So and after like 4 or 5 years, the first few years, they may not remember, but there is a bond. It really comes in what we feel like is the most important. I think not a simple answer, but really dependent on what the family and what the mother and what support she has around her.
No, thank you. I mean, I found it difficult to answer that question because I haven't experienced it, so I feel like I'm unqualified. And you know, just to link into this question as well that I received recently, which was I'm doing my master's, and they found me and they were like, you know, they don't know if I've got children, etc., what my situation's like. And the question was, I'm with my partner, we've relocated from Nigeria, and he's saying it's time to have kids, but I want to do my PhD. What advice do you have for me? And essentially, again, I've only got a dog, so I feel like I'm so unqualified because I don't know what the right answer is. And I will pass it over to yourself to say, do you have a response for that question?
Right. My answer is, know what you're getting into when you're delaying your pregnancy. One thing is, there is this whole strong women movement. Go do your career. You do what you want, but please do not forget that we are biologically different. We need to consider our biology on when our fertility is, when is the best time physically to have children and not have complication. Really reconsider that before just thinking about a career, because as soon as you're age 30, fertility drops. As soon as you hit 30, it drops even further. And now you're thinking about IVF, right? So really consider that part of the equation when you're making the decision. Don't just think about it's going to be easier. Having children is not going to be easy at all, whether you are 28, 25, or 35. But understand that at 35, you may no longer have, you may have to go through a lot of fertility treatment. And some people, they can't even get multiple IVFs and still are unsuccessful. So just consider that when you're making the consideration.
No, thank you very much. That's really insightful. And I think when we were talking, I was talking about IVF to say, most of us are thinking, right, it's time to freeze our eggs. But, even then, you don't have time to even meet a partner. So you're like, oh, how is this going to work? Essentially. So, I appreciate your response and thank you. And I'll share it back with the colleague in question that sent me that question. As we're rounding off, where can people find you in terms of your YouTube channel, etc.? I know we'll have the details at the bottom, but it'd be lovely if you can verbalize it as well.
So YouTube channel, you can search up Published MD, like being published, and MD. My website is www.publishedmd.com. And if you want to email me at info@publishedmd.com.
Thank you very much. Now, the final question is, why did you think, I need to go and speak to Norma on PhD Hard Talk. What intrigued you about PhD Hard Talk? And do you think PhD Hard Talk is actually beneficial for those in academia and those in industry? Or do you think, do you know what, Norma, call it a day, it's not working?
Call it a day, there's too much work. You know, you should take care of your dog. Right.
Oh.
I think there's not enough conversation among academia because we are so focused on getting the next paper published. And it is so nice to step back and speak to other other academics, because academia is actually quite lonely and very, the higher you go, the more lonely you feel. Like I don't have any colleagues that have similar interests. And so I love this platform because you're opening up a channel where we can geek out on science, but also talk about life in general. That is what we need, is a community, right? And also kind of insights that we can glean from different industries, different fields, even though we are in different fields, but similar topics come up. How do we publish paper? So much pressure, work-life balance. When do I have my first kid? Gender pay gap, it's the same thing. Despite different fields. And so thanks for having this platform where we can start having these conversations.
Thank you very much. So I'm Noma Mguni. Don't forget to subscribe at home. And if you want to find out who Dr. Ng is, all the details are at the bottom. And if you want to ask any questions as you've been invited, do send an email. Give us 5 to 7 working days. Sometimes we're really busy, or sometimes we've just crushed. There's no energy left.
Yes. Empty. Yeah.
Empty. So please be kind and gentle, and also follow on socials if you want to follow on socials. And I think you had an amazing TED Talks that I love, that starts with data. I mean, such a conversation, an icebreaker, sorry. And if people want to watch, please feel free. The link will be at the bottom again. And don't forget #project dissemination to the world and #sustainable knowledge to the world. Thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here.